English humour. A pint and a pie in the lower echelons of English language humour. Part 17. Working men's clubs. The best guess is that the first working men's club was founded in 1845 by a mill owner named Robert Hyde Gregg. Mr. Gregg noticed that a lot of the hired hands, when not working, couldn't go back to their lodgings, so spent a lot of time in the pub. And as a teetotaler himself, he thought what better idea than to provide a place of amusement for these people, and even better, that it didn't have any alcohol in it. Well, the no alcohol rule lasted about 10 years, and this type of club proliferated into what was a common sight in every town and city in England and Scotland and Wales, and I'm sure Ireland as well, the Working Men's Club. These days they have the reputation of having been a bear pit, ready to devour the comedian alive. One of them remembers being greeted onto the stage with the loud heckle, "Tell us your best joke, then fuck off." They also had the reputation of being racist. Poor old Bernard Manning being the flag-bearer for the old-style humour, which he, to his death, maintained was never racist or intended to be offensive. Even in the face of the just sprouting alternative comedy scene, the working men's clubs held their own until quite recently. I knew the working men's club as a place to go for a game of snooker or pool, and of course the beer was cheaper. Another comedian remembered seeing fights and chairs flying. The standard fare was often 3 comedians and a stripper, and women, apart from the stripper, were not allowed in, except on special days. Though on the comedy nights, it seems, women made up about half the audience. And there you would sit with your pint in front of you, watching comedians like the Irishman Frank Carson. "My wife said to me, 'If you won the lottery, would you still love me?' I said, 'Of course I would. I'd miss you, but I'd still love you.'" Very old-style music hall. A guy goes into a hardware store and says, "I'd like some nails, please." The assistant says, "How long would you like them?" He says, "Well, I want to keep them." Boom, boom. A nice bit of old-style wordplay. Now, the comedy in these clubs came to my attention, and a lot of other people's, via a television programme called The Comedians that took the best of these stand-up comedians, working the circuit, and turned them into TV stars. Bernard Manning became quite famous, Frank Carson also. Then there was Charlie Williams, one of Britain's first black footballers, turning out for Doncaster Rovers 171 times. "Never a fancy player," he said, "but I could stop them buggers that were." He became another popular favourite, along with Stan Boardman, the cheeky Liverpudlian who was told off for making a joke about German airplanes on the Des O'Connor show, the airplanes in question being Fokkers. Very much associated with the north of England, they nevertheless sprouted up everywhere, and Londoners had their own salt-of-the-earth lorry driver's son, who was hauling coal as he started his stand-up career in the clubs. His name was Mike Reed. So that was one of the ambiances that was floating around in 70s and 80s and 90s Britain. And as a large, sweating Bernard Manning puffed on his cigarette in his embassy club, as he also had enough money to start a club, and a successful one, I would invite anybody to look back if they can find any films of these comedians and judge for themselves how racist or sexist they were. Our modern goggles make us look back at the sitcoms with the idea that they also were racist. Of course, the sitcom reflects what's happening in society, and the influx of foreigners being something new was food for sitcoms. Love Thy Neighbour, with a white family and a black family living next to each other, and the hilarity that ensues, is often criticised as being stereotypical these days. But any analysis will show that it's the white couple that come off the worst, just as Alf Garnett came off worst in his spats with his socialist son-in-law. The notorious Fawlty Towers episode, known as The Germans, was under the magnifying glass recently. On the one hand, Spanish waiter Manuel is always being mistreated, to the extent that here in Spain he's turned into an Italian. But the alarming part was when the character of the Major uttered the N-word and insisted on hunting down Germans. But the defence is the same. The butt of all these jokes, in this case the two butts, are the batty old Major and the sycophantic wheedling Basil Fawlty. In any case, I'm a bit of a defender of Bernard Manning. There are other comedians that I do find offensive, but I think Bernard carried the can for quite a lot of them. And in the long run, we've seen that foreign influence on our comedy can do nothing but good. Swedes and Germans began to make a name for themselves on the comedy circuit, along with the natural English speakers of Jamaica, Canada, America, Australia, and parts of Africa. India, of course, has English as an official language, and the Indians managed to get their own back in the best possible way with television series such as Goodness Gracious Me, The Kumars at number 42, and Citizen Khan, where the said Mr. Khan is mocked as being a loud-mouthed, patriarchal, self-appointed community leader. And on the list of top 10 comedy sketches, for people old enough to remember, you'll almost always get the flip on the English habit of going out for a nice hot curry as hot as possible, when in this sketch it's the Indians coming in looking for some traditional English food, as bland as possible. But I seem to have left the working men's clubs behind, as did time, and also on account of television. Not many left now. Maybe they'll leave a few up, with plaques to the excellent comedians that once worked there.